Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So welcome back everybody to our daily Gita classes. Today we are going to be speaking from chapter number 2 entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, and we're going to be speaking from text number 17 to 17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So chapter 2, text 17. Avinashi tu tadvidhi
Avinashi tu tadvidhi.
yena sarvam idam tatam
Yena sarvam idam tatam.
vinasham avyayasya
Vinasham avyayasya.
na kaschit kartum arhati.
Nakashit kartum arhati.
Avinashi tu tadvidhi
Avinashi tu tadvidhi.
yena sarvam idam tatam
Yena sarvam idam tatam.
vinasham avyayasya
Vinasham avyayasya.
na kaschit kartum arhati.
Nakashit kartum arhati.
Avinashi tu tadvidhi
Avinashi tu tadvidhi.
yena sarvam idam tatam
Yena sarvam idam tatam.
vinasham avyayasya
Vinasham avyayasya.
na kaschit kartum arhati.
Nakashit kartum arhati.
अविनाशी तु तद्विधि
Avinashi tu tadvidhi
येन सर्वमिदं
yena sarvam
तथा
idam tatam
विनाशम् अभ्यासास्य
vinashasya
न कश्चित् कर्तुम् अर्हति
na kaschit kartum arhati.
Avinashi tu tadvidhi.
Avinashi tu tadvidhi
Yena sarvam idam tatam.
yena sarvam idam tatam
Vinasham avyayasya.
vinashasam avyayasya
Na kaschit kartum arhati.
na kaschit kartum arhati.
Avinashi tu tadvidhi
Avinashi tu tadvidhi.
yena sarvam idam tatam
Yena sarvam idam tatam.
vinasham avyasasya
Vinasham avyayasya.
na kaschit kartum arhati
Nakashit kartum arhati.
Avinashi tu tadvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasya na kaschit kartum arhati.
Avinashi tu tadvidhi
Avinashi tu tadvidhi
yena sarvam idam tatam
yena sarvam idam tatam
vinasam avyayasya
Vinasham avyayasya.
nakasit kartum arhati
Nakashit kartum arhati.
Avinashi tu tadvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasya na kaschit kartum arhati. Avinashi tu tadvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasya na kaschit kartum arhati. Okay, word for word translation. Avinashi, imperishable. Tu, but. Tat, that. Vidhi, know it. Yena,
Yena.
by whom.
By whom?
Sarvam,
Sarvam.
all of the body.
All of the body.
Idam,
Idam.
this.
This.
Tatam,
Tatam.
pervaded.
Pervaded.
Vinasham,
Vinasham.
destruction.
Destruction.
avyayasya, of the imperishable,
of the imperishable,
asya, of it,
of it,
na kaschit,
nakaschit,
no one,
no one,
kartum,
kartum,
to do,
to do,
arhati,
arhati,
is able.
is able.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be the indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Repeat after me. That which pervades the entire body,
That which pervades the entire body,
you should know
you should know
to be indestructible.
to be indestructible.
No one is able
No one is able
to destroy
to destroy
that imperishable soul.
that imperishable soul.
Purport. This is quite a big, long purport that Prabhupada has written on this verse. We'll go through it. Easy. Okay. Purport. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part or as a whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is an embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. This soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. The Shvetasvatara Upanishad confirms this. When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is a measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms which are measured as 1/10,000th of the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is a basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spread throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is a proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. In the Mundaka Upanishad, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air, prana, apana, vyana, samana and udana, is situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air, encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mundaka Upanishad, this atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity, and because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them are said foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the super soul, and thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The corpuscles which carry the oxygen from the lungs gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. Such atomic particles of the spirit whole are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, they are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, called by the name Prabha, or superior energy. So whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body, and the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of Godhead himself. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Nosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpa Tarvyuscha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gatatara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyadi Pastarishtarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this is also a very important shloka in the series of talks that Krishna is giving to Arjuna now. So just to give you a bit of a overview. So Krishna is going to be speaking from 2:11 all the way to 2:30 on this aspect. What is this aspect? It is known as Sankhya, meaning the difference between the body and the soul, or in extension between matter and spirit. Okay, so this is the context in which Krishna will be speaking these verses, and so this one appears within that. So why does he speak that? Why does Krishna start his explanation with this topic? Because he wants to cut down all the arguments that Arjuna had given in the first chapter. And the first argument that he had given is that I am feeling compassionate towards the elders and towards the Kauravas and towards all the soldiers that are gathered here. But Krishna rebukes. He says that your compassion is not rightly placed. It is coming out from a place of bewilderment and ignorance. You are lamenting for something that is not worth lamenting about. Yeah. So we start from 2:11. So in 2:11, Krishna said to not lament unnecessarily. Why? Because Krishna says in 2:12 that all of us, you, me, and all the kings here, are all eternal souls. We are not going to die at the end of this life. We have been existing before, we are existing now, and we will all continue to exist in the future. And if you remember, we said that 2:12 is one of the litmus test verses that we can check. If we can see how anyone who is commenting on the Gita, how they explain 2:12 will give us an indication whether they have understood the meaning of the Gita or they have not, right? And this is also another one. Okay, going on in 2:13, he says that okay, even if all of us are living eternally, but I don't like change. Death is a very big change. He says no, change is a very natural part of life. We go from boyhood to youth to old age, and death is just another kind of change. It's a permanent type of change, not one change that you can experience in your own lifetime, but it comes across lifetimes. So it is just another type of change. You don't have to be bewildered by that. But then Arjuna was thinking that okay, I accept that I have to, this is a change, but I am attached to this person. Like these three changes, going from from boyhood to youth to old age, that is happening in front of me. I can accept that. But after death, I will not be able to associate with that person. So Krishna says, but you must tolerate the change just like you tolerate the heat and cold in the winter and summer seasons. You must tolerate it, because this is a world of dualities. And then Krishna says, if you are able to tolerate this final change, if you are able to tolerate it, you can become equanimous. And that quality of being stable is what will qualify you. It will what will make you eligible for liberation. That was 2:15. And then yesterday, after a long break, we looked at 2:16. And now what is 2:16 talking about? That the seers of the truth have concluded that the material body is non-enduring, which is why it is called asat, while the spiritual soul is enduring, which is eternal, and that is why it is called sat. Okay? Sat and asat, they are defined on this principle of eternality. Not that sat asat means real or false. So material nature is also real, but it is considered to be unreal in the timeline of eternity, because it is always coming and going, coming and going. It's always created and destroyed, created and destroyed. So although material nature as ingredients are eternal, because that's Krishna's energy, but the material world and its objects are asat, in the sense that they are not going to exist forever in that particular shape and form. But the eternal soul will always remain as it is, without changing. And now from here on, Krishna will give so many different adjectives to describe the soul. And if you understand, and if you actually study this from now till at least 2.30, all the descriptions of the soul are in the negative sense, meaning in the sense that we are only capable of understanding material nature, because that's what we are exposed to. And so now to describe something that is not of this nature, you have to now describe in a negative way of this world. So if in this world it is a known fact that something is perishable, but the soul is not of this world, so it is imperishable. So all the qualities that are now being described of the soul are going to be in the negative sense, because Krishna is trying to establish the fact that this soul is not a product of this material world. Okay? So the body, and actually this point Krishna says in 2:16 that all classes of transcendentalists agree on this point in the purport. Prabhupada writes that whether that one person be a personalist or an impersonalist or a Mayavadi or whatever type of transcendentalist it is, they all agree on this point that the spirit soul is of a spiritual nature which is completely different than the material nature. It is Sat and this is Asat. All of them agree on this point. So now what is it that so this body is constantly changing, and this is a fact which is corroborated by material medical science, as Prabhuji said yesterday, that every 7 years all the cells in our body are completely changed. Yet we don't feel like we are a different person. we feel that we are the same person. Although the body has completely changed, but you retain that identity of being the same person. So that is our own experience. We have experienced this. We don't need some other person to tell us this. We know this for a fact because we have experienced it. Okay? So the step 1 in seeing things as they are requires this timeless understanding of the nature of matter and spirit. The conclusion that is given in 2.16 is a starting point to making sure we can at least understand spiritual science properly. Yeah, because if we do not understand this, we will remain in ignorance as we will confuse the nature of both, and from this confusion and from this ignorance comes lamentation and bewilderedness. This is what Arjuna was facing. And then Prabhupada says that the step number 2 is to remove this ignorance. And how do you remove this ignorance? Is that it involves that the re-establishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this is like 2 completely. He is given the starting point and is given that at the end this is the understanding that you should get to, and in between there is so many practices, spiritual practices that are given to be able to realize this fact, or this fact. When you realize it, it is to be understood that you are removed of all ignorance. Okay? So the question now comes up that Prabhupada has written this at the end, that step number 2, that okay, we understand we are ignorance, and our ignorance will completely be removed when we understand that there is a worshipable and the person to worshipper and worshipable. Once you get to know this distinction. But not all classes of transcendentalists get to this point. Okay? All classes understand that there is something as matter, there is something as spirit. Now is where the distinction happens. For some people, they argue on this point of what is actually the nature of the spirit soul. So Prabhupada is written in 2.16 in the purport that the nature of the spirit soul is to be part and parcel and to be subordinate to the Supreme Soul, while the impersonalists, they take the spirit soul to be the super soul itself, or to be the Supreme Soul. Okay? This is where now the distinction happens. And how do we test whether this one is right or that one is right? And that is why this verse becomes a very important verse to determine that. Okay, this is Bhagavad Gita as it is, and this is Prabhupada's Gita, it's perfect. But if you see any other Gita, this is another verse you can check to see whether it is authentic, if the commentator is authentic or is just bluffing. Okay? Now, what is the thing that you need to look for? So the word that you really need to look at, and the way it has been translated, is the word called sarvam. It is avinashi tu tad vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. Sarvam means it is pervading. But what is the limit of that pervading? So now the impersonalists will say that the limit is, there is no limit. That soul pervades everywhere. That is all Brahman. We are all Brahman. But Prabhupada ji has very nicely qualified it in the word for word translation. He said sarva means all of the body. Everywhere, but limited in one body. One body. And this makes a lot of sense. In a practical experience, we know this to be true. I am not aware of what is happening in your body. My field of consciousness is limited to only this body, and also not only limited to this body, but even more limited because sometimes I don't even know what is happening in my body. Do I know how my food is being digested? Do I get a sense, okay, that the food is here, 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 now this is the step that's happening. Everything is happening automatically. So that's why Prabhupada writes in the purport that we are only conscious of a part or of the whole, but mostly it's always of the part. We don't even have full consciousness of our own body, right? So this just goes to show that our limit is so small, that we are very atomic in size, and that's why Prabhupada has written so many verses or so many evidences from different Upanishads to drive home the point that the soul is not unlimited, or it doesn't have unlimited pervasiveness. It only is atomic in size and has a very small field of influence, which is an individual body. Now that body can be the size of a bacteria or the size of a big shark or whale. The same spark can power both of the bodies. Yeah, even in our own body there are millions of souls in those bacteria, but there is only one soul that is powering this body, and that is me. That is my own soul, right? So this is what Prabhupada is trying to drive the point, and he is trying to bash the impersonalists in his purport here. So the impersonalists understand the word sarvam to refer to the soul's pervasiveness to stretch everything, and the consequence of this is that you are equating the soul to be equal to the super soul, and which means that you are equating it to be as Vishnu Tattva. There are four different tattvas, four main different tattvas. There is Vishnu Tattva, Shiva Tattva, Shakti Tattva and Jiva Tattva. Vishnu Tattva is God and all his plenary expansions. Then there is Shiva Tattva, that is that expansion of the Lord that interacts with the material world, because wherever Krishna is, Maya cannot stay in there. So there is an expansion of Vishnu, which is known as Lord Shiva, who acts as the in-between. Is a person who is able to connect the Vishnu Tattva with the material world. Then there is a Shakti Tattva. These are the internal energies of the Lord, and when they come in the material world, it becomes Maya Shakti. Like Durga, Saraswati, Lakshmi, all of these are Shakti Tattvas. And then the rest of the part and parcel living entities are of the Jiva Tattva. They are Jiva Tattva. None of the Tattvas can mix. None of the Tattvas can become the other Tattva. But what the impersonalists do is they are trying to make the Jiva Tattva to become Vishnu Tattva. That cannot happen. That is not going to be possible. So that is why Prabhupada writes this sentence in the purport, we read it, that only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all pervading Vishnu Tattva. So clearly that Prabhupada has written it. He just bashed the entire conception of the impersonalists here. So such a reading, if you try to understand this in this way of the impersonalists, one, it is inconsistent with the context of the discussion. If you look at all the verses before this verse and even the verse after this verse, it is nothing to do with a general sense. The entire conversation is between the body and the soul. Starting from 2.13, Krishna explicitly speaks about the Dehi and the Deha. Yeah, Dehi nam asmin yata Dehe. He is talking about the soul and the body. In 2.14, he is addressing the sensory perceptions, matra sparshas. Yeah, that's verse. Then in 2.18, right after this, again he brings the word Deha. Again he is bringing the conversation again to the body, the difference between the body and the soul. So how is it that all of a sudden in between these verses Krishna is talking about some completely different context? No, he's not talking about that. So this is why Prabhupada was very hard, saying that impersonalists and Mayavad are very good at word jugglery. They are very good at word jugglery. They just take this one word sarvam and they completely change the entire meaning of the verse. They can change the entire meaning of the verse. But we have to be very smart. We have to be able to understand the context in which this verse is being talked about. And the context is between the soul and the body. He is not talking about the pervasiveness of the soul in compared to the universe. No, he is comparing it only to the body. So this is what we have to understand, that if we so given this progression of thought between 213, 214, 218, where does 217 lie? It lies in between. So this is the context in which it has been spoken about. So if we don't understand this, then our reading can get diverted, or our understanding can be diverted if we don't know the context of what is being talked about. Yeah. So, and then there is one very nice commentary by one of our Vaishnavacharyas called Srila Ramanujacharya. Now, Srila Ramanujacharya, in his Gita Bhasya commentary, he makes a very wonderful commentary on this verse as well. And he says that the focus of this verse is on the indestructibility of the soul, as it is said in the first line, Avinashi to Tadvidi. Avinashi means it is imperishable, it cannot be destroyed. Yeah. And now in the second verse, the second line, Yena sarvam idam tatam. Now he is giving the reason why the soul is indestructible by the second line, Yena sarvam idam tatam. The reason why the soul is indestructible is because it pervades everything. What does that mean? So it literally means that because the soul is all pervading, it is indestructible. How do we understand that? If we want to destroy something, say we want to destroy something, that thing needs to be able to have been penetrated by something. How many of you have seen a balloon? Now if you blow a balloon, keep on blowing a balloon, what are you adding to the balloon? Air. Now there will come a certain time, if you put a lot of air in it, what will happen to it? It will burst. So the balloon was destroyed by what element? Air. Okay, because it's body. You put it in water, you drown. What is drowning? Means what's happening when you're drowning? Water is being sucked in, it's been penetrated inside the body, and that will cause the destruction of the body. What about if you are inside a room and then somebody release some poisonous gas? What happens? Yeah? Goes inside, and so if anything needs to be destroyed, there needs to be something that is able to penetrate it. Then only will that thing become destroyed. But the spirit soul is the most subtle. It pervades even all these material elements as earth, water, fire, air, ether. It is even more subtle. So how can any of these even penetrate it? And that is why it is called indestructible. So Brahmanacharya has made this a wonderful connection. He is saying that it's because that the soul is pervading, it's all pervasive. And what he means by all pervasive here means it can pervade all the building blocks of all the material creation. It is the most subtle element. It is even, of course it is subtler than the 5 gross elements, but it is even subtle than the 3 subtle material elements, which is mind, false ego and intelligence. And that is why nothing is able to destroy the soul, because nothing can penetrate it. So, it is a very beautiful commentary that Ramanujacharya has given here, right. So, now we have got three understandings of this world, of this phrase, Yena Sarvam Idam Tatam. First is the Mayavada understanding, that the soul pervades everywhere. The second is the standard understanding, the one of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas that Prabhupada has written, that this means that the soul pervades its influence only inside the body. And now we have this Ramanujacharya understanding that Sarvam means that it is pervading even all the material elements. It is even subtler than all the material elements. That is why it is Avinashi. That is why it is indestructible. Now let us come to a Gaudiya Vaishnava commentator by the name of Baladev Vidyabhushan. In his Govinda Bhasya commentary on our understanding, as Prabhupada has written, that it is pervading all over the body, he says that the soul has two characteristics. There is the Atma itself and then there is the Chetana. These two go hand in hand. Wherever you perceive Chetana, automatically you must understand that there is a soul in it. Yeah? Wherever you see some sort of consciousness, that means already that there is a soul within it. And he says that Atma itself is unchanging. There is no change in it. Yeah, even ahead we will see in I think text number 25, Krishna himself says that the soul is avikaro ayam, means vikar means change, avikar means there is no change, it is unchanging, it remains as it is. But there is a second aspect called Chetana. Now Chetana can change. Yeah, Chetana can change. Our Chetana can expand till it reaches its final level. And what is the final level called? When it reaches full Krishna consciousness, right? A tree has a soul. Because it is soul, it is also conscious. It is a conscious living being. And a conscious living being goes through 6 changes: birth, growth, reproduction, stays for some while, dwindles, and finally has death in it. Okay, death. So anything that goes through these 6 changes, consider it to be a conscious living being. But the consciousness of the tree itself, so there is 2 meanings of the word consciousness. Consciousness means it is alive, and consciousness means what is its level of awareness. Being alive and being aware, there are 2 different meanings of the word consciousness. So the word, so this is the context. This consciousness, life, consciousness. This consciousness means that it is alive, that there is life within it. But this conscious means is how much aware are you of this life? How much aware are you of this life? That is what the second meaning of the word consciousness is. Now this consciousness can be of different grades, Sometimes our consciousness is so narrow-minded, because we are not very much understanding of what is happening. We are just going through life, but we are not living, or we are not alive or aware enough what is happening in our life. Yeah, you have seen this happening. So what Baladev Vidyabhushan ji is trying to say here is that we have to raise our consciousness to become sarvam, to become fully realized, and fully realized is when your consciousness becomes fully Krishna conscious, and at that point you become avinashi, because then you become liberated, because when you are in full Krishna consciousness, then you are already reached the conclusion that was written by Prabhupada ji in the previous verse. He says, what did Prabhupada ji says in the previous verse? That the removal of ignorance, he says, where is that? He said the removal of ignorance involves the re-establishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This basically means that you have understood or realized full Krishna consciousness. Your consciousness has become fully pervaded your entire being. All impurities have now been removed. There is no contamination. Pure consciousness means it is contamination less. It's not that there is no consciousness. It means that there is no contamination. And so this entire Gita is now going to tell us how to revive that consciousness to its full level, to its full original level of being completely Krishna conscious. And all the instructions, when they are applied or applied and given to us, that you need to do this, you need to chant 16 rounds, you need to come offer obeisances to the deity. All of these spiritual activities have got their founding in the texts of the Gita, and it's given to us by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So if we follow doing spiritual activities, gradually what will happen is our consciousness will also become fully Krishna conscious, and at that time we will be able to realize all these statements that Bhagavan has said in the Gita. So anyone has any questions, any comments?
So that's why Prabhupada saying all these Mayavadis are using this.
Yeah.
So they are just going away from the topic.
Yeah.
So like Arvindo and so many this. When Prabhupada giving them a lecture, name with this Christianity, Islam, all they are going deviated from the right teaching. All they are people. And some saying you are conscious, you become God. Some saying there is no soul. Both are in ignorance. Christian they saying there is no soul in the only human being has a soul.
Animal also.
All other you eat. That is also ignorance. And there's some saying that there is you become God. Soul become
God.
super soul.
Super soul.
That is also another type of ignorance.
This line of Prabhupada was so good. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all pervading Vishnu Tattva. That one line basically summarizes the entire argument.
These two types of people are everywhere in all the religious organizations. So that's why most of these religious organizations are totally not as per Bhagavad Gita teaching. Total deviated. Most of them.
Okay. So Vishnu Tattva, as I said, there are 4 Tattvas. Tattva means something that is true regardless of time, place and circumstances. It has been true,
Always remain.
it is true now, and it will always remain true. This is a particular type of truth that will always remain. And so there are 4 different categories of beings. The first is Jiva Tattva, which is what we are, right? Then there is Shakti Tattva, that is the energy. Yeah. Then there is Shiva Tattva, and finally there is Vishnu Tattva. Now Vishnu Tattva, these are all God and all his expansions, personal expansions. They are all given the same powers and qualities and everything of God. And like, so there is Ram, Narsimha, Varahadev, Vamandev, so many different incarnations of the Lord. They all belong to this Vishnu Tattva. And so for example, the example that is given is like, take a candle and you light all the candles. All the candles will have the same capacity, but yet there was one candle, original candle, that lit up all the candles. that original candle is Krishna. He is the source of everything, and also all Vishnu Tattvas are from him, and so they are all as good as him, but yet he is the original. So, and whenever you come across the word Vishnu Tattva, consider that to be God, and or his expansion, or his expansion of expansion, or expansion.
It is simple thing. Vishnu Tattva. Vishnu cannot become Jiva. Jiva cannot become
Vishnu. Soul cannot become.
Jiva cannot become Shiva. Shiva cannot become Jiva. Energy. Shakti cannot become Jiva. Jiva cannot become Shakti. Like elements, you know, it's a Tattva. Tattva means element, like hydrogen, oxygen, chloride. It is always chloride. Chloride cannot become something else. Chloride is chloride. Oxygen is oxygen. Hydrogen is hydrogen. You can take another shape, but hydrogen always remain hydrogen. That is called Tattva, element. So like so many religious organizations, they saying God now become
human.
Jiva now become God. All these are
useless.
Nonsense thing. It's not in Bhagavad Gita. It's not teachings of the life. When Jiva become God, then what is meaning of God? Anyone can become God. And the God becomes Jiva. So what is meaning of God? How can become Jiva? So this is not teaching. That is not spiritual teaching. That is apabhransa. Apabhransa means confusion and delusion. Mental speculation. That is delusion. They are taking the things their own way, not what is given in the scripture. They take the scripture, they read the scripture, but they conclude their own conclusion. Scientists have mislead. Right? And they mislead.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।